Who throws a shoe? Honestly, that really hurt. Who throws a shoe? Austin Powers.
So we told you guys on Wednesday about the special deal that Reebok is offering our listeners. So for the first time ever, 25% off the Reebok Legacy Lifters. For our listeners, 25% off using the code PowerCast. It can be spelled anyway, right? There's no, okay.
Not cap sensitive.
Not cap sensitive this time.
You know, when you're doing your squats, a lot of people may not know, especially newer lifters, may not really understand that having your heel elevated a little bit can help you squat a little bit lower. So those of you that are depth challenged, this is going to be a perfect shoe for you to be able to get you to proper depth. You need to be getting that hip crease below the knee in order to get a lift pass in a powerlifting meet.
Yeah, I know a bunch of people use them in here. And you actually had them on the wall in the old place. I suppose you'll do that again here at some point.
Yeah, we had them available for everybody just to give them a try, almost like a pair of bowling shoes. But a lot of Olympic lifting shoes, the heel is elevated a lot, and it pushes you forward on your toes.
Right.
This one's somewhere in the middle of how high or how low they make them, and I really like it a lot because it helps me get depth. I'm getting old, and my stuff's too tight to get proper depth.
Not moving the way it used to.
Yeah, I move like the freaking Tin Man. So having a pair of Olympic lifting shoes like this, having these Legacy lifters on, really makes a big difference for me.
Guys, jump on this deal. It ends on Sunday, October 29th. Just go through checkout, 25% off plus free expedited shipping. They'll get them to you faster
25% off. That's pretty damn solid.
Yeah, and they haven't done it before in the United States. So
first time ever here on the PowerCast.
Right.
Hey, this is Jim McDonald. Welcome to episode 234 of the PowerCast. We're back with part 2 with Brian Shaw and Keri Shaw. Brian actually now fills in the cliffhanger that we left hanging on Wednesday about what happened with World's Strongest Man this year. Why did he not win? What does he think happened? We also talk about Brian's new business venture, helping people learn about Strongman. Please like and share this video, and the Reebok sale is still on. Please check out that code, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday.
Support for this episode of the PowerCast comes from Precision Nutrition. Go to get.pn/PowerCast for your free book on the role of genetics in fitness and nutrition. That's get.pn/PowerCast. Reebok.com, home of the Legacy Lifting shoe, the official shoe of the PowerCast at Reebok.com. 8-Man Strong apparel for people who lift heavy weights at 8manstrong.com. Compex Muscle Stim products at CompexUSA.com. Use the code PowerCast for an additional 28% off all but the lowest price model. HowMuchYouBench.net. Use the code PowerCast for 15% off slingshots and free shipping on orders over $100. And Bodybuilding.com, the world's largest fitness website and supplement store. Bodybuilding.com has free plans for every level. Visit bodybuilding.com today to become your best self.
Recorded live in West Sacramento, California, this is Mark Bell's PowerCast. Standing just to the left of Jim McDonald, here's your host, Mark Bell.
So this year you did everything right. The training, the nutrition, the recovery, and then the World's Strongest Man didn't go the way you wanted.
Certainly, yeah.
What happened at this year's World's Strongest Man?
Oh, the big question now. We kind of, I figured that would be coming. So World's Strongest Man this year was interesting. And what I'd say is there's a lot of stuff that got thrown out there on the internet about it. And I think that fans of the sport kind of got to read in a little bit more to some stuff. You know, I don't make the decisions. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I did, things would have probably been different. But I've always just kind of said, I've never, ever gone to a contest or said, hey, I'm not going to compete based on, you know, this event selection or what you're trying to do, or if there's outside motives for or reasons why things get chosen. So, I mean, It is what it is. I mean, people can read into that however they want to read
Eddie
into
Hall
it.
ended up winning, right? And he won. That's
Yeah,
his first World's
Ed
Strongest
won.
Man
Yep.
that he won, right?
Yeah, and here's the deal: is Eddie. What I will say is he, very much like me, 100% committed himself to do everything he possibly could. Inside training, outside training, and we had a lot of conversations, and he's publicly said that he tried every time he was around me to pick my brain. What does Brian do, and what does he have? What do I need to have that he has? And it's flattering in a lot of ways for him to say, hey, you know what, man, I tried to model what I was doing after what you were doing because I can see why you're being successful. And so that was really cool, and I will hand him that. He did everything he could.
Put on a lot of weight the last couple of years.
Yeah, and he set big goals. I mean, he threw it out there what he wanted to get done, and he's done some very impressive things. And it's I guess what I would say is it's unfortunate after all the talk for him, with winning that contest. You know what I'm saying? To have people talking about it negatively,
Right.
That sucks, right? And that I don't know. I don't really know I don't have an explanation or what to say about that, but I will say that sucks. And I don't like it for the sport.
Thor doing an overhead press or something like that. He felt he locked it.
And the thing with that is that got thrown out there. I didn't say anything. I'm not a throw stuff out on social media in the moment kind of guy, but Hofthor did. He made a couple posts right after the contest was over that I don't know. I don't know if he was really mad. I mean, he talked to me at the contest and he was really pissed off. I was really pissed off, but I don't do those things in the moment because it's not the right way to react,
How do you not do that? Do you just take some time and just
I took some time. I talked to Keri about it after
usually if
we
you
were
just
done
wait
and
several hours or the next day, you kind of realize
you
like
calm
that was
down.
the smart
Yeah.
move to not say anything about it.
Better. But Hofthor, the big thing there was a rep on the Viking press that was in question. Hofthor, because of his finish on the squat event before that, had to go out earlier than a lot of or I guess Eddie and I, the top guys, had to go. So I watched him go. I was, the refereeing on a Viking press is challenging, to say the least, because of the way your body needs to go. And on a Viking press, in case anybody listening to this doesn't understand, it's a shoulder press apparatus where you can dip and drive with your legs, but once you're done with that leg drive, your legs have to stay straight and your body can't bend. Right, so that's what we're talking about.
And
as
a lot
far
of
as
times your body will bend because you just pushed it up and it might shove back down on top of you, kind of, right?
Yeah, and so if you were to do a what would be called a double dip, kind of like more of an Olympic lifting thing, you can basically manipulate the apparatus so that it's easier. So if you bend your knees again, you don't have to press it out; you can catch it.
Okay.
If that makes
so you're
sense.
creating some momentum.
So what Hofthor, with his body, he's a tough one to judge on that because he kind of bends his body in a weird way. And I mean, watching it in person, I personally thought that he should have been disallowed several of his reps. That's what I thought. If I was a referee, they would have been disallowed because I'm a lot stricter, and I think things should be perfect, especially at that level of competition. There is no gray area. There is no warnings. You either get a rep or you don't.
Let's just say that about the squat and powerlifting meets. Like, people, you can't judge it from the front. I'm like, whenever somebody goes deep enough, you can.
Sure.
Right.
You
Shouldn't
can
need to
certainly
be
tell.
a
You're
gray
like,
area.
Yep, that was good.
Yeah, you can tell. So that's what I would say. So basically, the controversy there was that Hofthor got disallowed one rep, which Eddie ended up doing one more rep than him, but Eddie also went out after him, right? And could have done potentially another one if he needed to.
Right.
And we don't know. We don't know. I mean, the rules were changed on the Viking press, which I really didn't agree with. For the first time ever in a strongman contest, I didn't know this until basically the day we competed, but you were allowed to put the Viking press down and then pick it back up as long as you were in the time limit. Normally, it's pick it up once, do as many reps as you can. Once you can't do it again, you put it down. And you can't pick it up. Yeah. So they changed that the day of. I didn't agree with that, but again, I don't make the rules. So I think that maybe some of this could have been eliminated if that rule hadn't been into play. Potentially, I'm not sure, but
were there a couple events in this year's competition where you feel you could have done a little bit better?
Totally.
Or
yeah.
was your training really, like, you felt you executed really well at the show? Or
I trained hard. I think there's two things that I wish I could have back with World's Strongest Man this year. One was we had a squat for reps. There was somewhere 700, 720 pounds for reps.
I love how all the weights are just outrageous. on
Sure,
everything.
yeah.
Just 700.
So I very much I made a very good game plan, I think, for that. I feel like my training was on point. And I went out just in knee sleeves. Every other competitor wrapped their knees. Mm-hmm. And I knew that if I could breathe through those squats, I could do a ton of reps, right? And I trained that way. I trained more of a breathing squat, like I'm going to and get in that mental place, like I'm really freaking tired, but I can do one more. And then I can do one more.
Breathing squat is when you perform kind of as many reps as you can, and then you stop at the top and you start to get your air, and you do one rep at a time.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep. So that's what I planned, and I knew by wearing the knee sleeves I'd be able to do that. Mm-hmm. And I threw a suit on top, put my belt under the suit so it just kind of supported me a little bit more. But I planned it out well, and
listen. If you want to know how to cheat, I'm the guy.
yeah. So the one part of that I didn't. That I'm frustrated with myself about is in the rules, going back after the event, I realized there was a time limit that they had put on the squat, right? And I didn't catch it. And normally I feel like I pretty much try to catch everything. And I should have, if I picked up on that, I should have brought it up in the rules meeting and said, hey guys, we don't need a time limit for the squat. You squat until you can't squat, and that's it. Right, that should have been the rule.
Yeah.
And I was going through, and due to the way the setup was, without going into too much detail, there was pads that you had to touch these giant globes to. I couldn't feel the pads, and I wasn't ready because of the size of the axle. I wasn't ready to dunk it into the hole and try to slam it into those. I was simply trying to come down, touch, and so basically I was pausing almost every single rep because I couldn't feel the sides. But I was working through it. I was doing really, really good. I was taking my time every rep, exactly executing how I wanted to. And I come up with what was, I believe, my 13th rep. And
they're like, time.
And they blow in the whistle, telling me to put it down. And I'm like, it took me a second to even realize what the hell they were talking about. Because I was just in the zone, and I was like, all right, I got 4 or 5 more here, right? And I got to go last, too, because I had won the first event. So I knew that I had to do more than 15. Eddie Hall had done 15. I was on 13, which was a 4-way tie for second place, which is insane.
Really
so, and I had,
right?
I mean, I had at least 5 more in the tank if I needed them. And they blew the whistle. And I totally didn't catch that there was a time limit. So that I'm frustrated with myself because, number one, I would have brought that up in the rules saying that there doesn't need to be a time limit, or I would have said, can we go 75 seconds? Can we go 90 something? Because I know I'm going to go longer than that because that's the way I trained, Anyway, I was that didn't work out how it should have. I had more in me and I couldn't execute those because the time limit ran out. So that sucked because I also lost points. If I could have at least done one more, I would have been by myself in second instead of a 4-way tie for second. So that would have been huge, especially winning that event would have been huge at that point in the contest for me. And then the plane pull. Plane pull this year, I actually didn't realize what fully happened until I got to watch it back on TV. And I will say that basically since I've been doing World's Strongest Man, since 2011, truck pull or plane pull, I finished first or second. That's been a banker event for me. It's been great. I normally love pulling anything heavy. I love pulling, right? And so I went into that event, and the plane, what they did after seeing it back on TV, it was a fairly small plane. I know this sounds kind of ironic, but it was a fairly small plane for our level. And so I thought, well, I want to sprint with this thing. I got to get it up to speed as fast as I possibly can, which off the start meant I was going to open up my stride length a little bit. The problem with that is they left the little bar on the front. So you have the two plain wheels and then a bar in front that hooks to the little tank thing that pushes the plane around. Well, what happens with that bar is if you have side-to-side movement, it moves those two wheels back and forth. So I got done with it, and my buddy was there with me, and I said, dude, what happened? Because I just felt like it never got rolling. I felt like every step I was like having to restart the momentum it felt awful. It felt awful. I cashed my body. I was done. Like I gave everything I could because I just was trying, but it never felt like a normal pull. You kind of get it broken and then you move up to speed and then you get it rolling. I just never felt like it got rolling. But what I was doing is I opened my stride length up so much that every step I took forward, those wheels were turning and the rubber was stopping and stopping and stopping.
Oh man,
it was awful.
So you were dragging those wheels basically.
It was. I couldn't have made it any harder if I tried, basically. So I saw that back on TV, and it was almost made me sick to watch it because it was. If I could do it again, I would have changed completely my technique. But I thought that was what I needed to do because it was a lighter plane. Anyway, I ended up fifth on that pull, which was. I can't even explain it. In the moment, it was ridiculous mentally to finish fifth on a pull when I've been so good at it. But I screwed myself because of how I was trying to pull it with those bigger strides and moving the wheels, and I just completely screwed myself. So those two things, and then I tore my hamstring on the deadlift, which was a fifth of 6 events. I still went out and did the stones. Which was
with the deadlift, you were telling me that you kind of miscalculated the weight a little bit, and that was probably because you were a little frustrated from the other events that kind of happened, right?
I only found out 1 week before I was getting on the airplane that we had a max deadlift, and so I guessed wrong with that as well. I didn't get a lot of information before this year's World's Strongest Man, so I had.
Do you think that should be handled differently? Do you think because the weights are so heavy? Do you think? How do you think it should be? Like if you were president of it or something?
I would give the events with plenty notice to every single competitor at the same time.
The exact event.
If it's going to be for reps or max.
Should there ever be a question mark because you are trying to determine, World's Strongest Man? So in your opinion, do you think there should be like a monkey wrench a little bit in there, or do you think it should just be straight up? Like let's just see how strong we are on this stuff.
I think if. That's a good question. I mean, I think just due to the weights and everything, you should throw them out there, and as long as
it's only 12 weeks to prepare for it anyway, right? Or
yeah, as long as everybody gets the information at the same time, everybody's on a level playing field. Yeah. So that would be what I would do. I guessed with a deadlift, I guessed completely wrong. They've never ever done a max pull in consecutive years since I've started World's Strongest Man.
It's gotten so popular.
Exactly. Well, 2016, we had a max pull at World's Strongest Man. So I said, there's no way they're going to do a max in 17. They're going to do reps. Right. Mm-hmm. So I hadn't really gone past 800 pounds in my training for reps leading up to World's Strongest Man. I found out 1 week before I pulled 1,016, but I hadn't primed my body to do it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I just didn't feel it. It didn't feel like it should have felt. And I ended up tearing my hamstring on that one. Really challenging moment. Again, in a contest, I couldn't really bend over. I had to have my buddy help me tie my shoes. I went to the guys and just had them wrap my leg and put the hottest cream that I could on there.
Yeah.
And I just said, I'm going to go out. I don't even know if I can lift the first stone, but I'm going to try. Like I'm walking out there and I'm giving it everything. And at that point, even with everything on the squat and the pull and the deadlift not going exactly how I would have liked, I still was in contention to win. Had I won the stones and things would have fallen in the right place. So I just said, I'm going to lay it all out here. And I ended up being able to finish the stones, which actually even surprised me. I couldn't believe it. And then I took one step and my hamstring just said, no, you're done. Because I had just stretched it after being, and so I literally, it's the only time that I've ever gone down because I just couldn't take another step. Like my leg just stopped working and I fell down. And as soon as they could get me up, I got off on my own power. But
was that was after you loaded all the stones?
I was in so much pain. I just said, I'm getting back to the medical tent. I'm done. I loaded him. I didn't know what had happened. But it was ridiculous. So I was trying to just walk off, and walking didn't happen at that point. So it was like you said, emotional battle, because those couple things didn't quite fall the way I wanted to. But this is competition. I mean, at the end of the day, I can't choose the events. And based on the events, even with the way they were, had I performed on the squat the way I should have and the pull the way I should have, it would have been done. Right. And so in my head, it's like, that's what we go back and we now get better at, right? And you know, I mean, I shook Eddie's hand after and I said, good job, man. I mean, he put a hell of a lot of work into that, right?
Yeah.
And you know, like I said, with the way that things went down with Hofthor, and you know, if he would have been judged the way that I judged him, he would have lost the reps, I think. And you know, if it was the roles were reversed, I'm not trying to talk bad about Hofthor's reps or anything. So I don't want anybody to get that twisted about,
twisted around,
you know, I think Hofthor has improved tremendously. He's a threat at any contest that he goes to. So I'm not sitting here and trying to talk about it. It's just, it was bad the way that everything came out. And I think that it could have been approached a little bit differently is all. I think we were both in the heat of the moment. Like you said, you tend to, if you don't have that kind of moment of, hey, I'm going to take a step back and just let the dust settle for a minute. If you jump out there and do something too quickly, but it was brought up in the contest, that moment should have been contested at that moment. And it was not brought up until after the event was finished.
Do they watch replay?
Well, that's the problem. See, we don't necessarily.
They're not really supposed to. Probably.
Well,
it's not really in the rules.
It's actually not. I don't know that I've ever seen that in the rules. Yeah, but they did, because it was videotaped.
Right.
So they did see, and that's when they kind of came back and said, "Hey, yes, you were disallowed this rep, but you probably could have lost more reps." But then it was the big question. I honestly, there's a lot of other stuff that went on, you know, with the contest. So you can't really, that moment in time, it's like, if it would have been judged differently, and or we would have found out if Hofthor would have been given that rep, which is what it is, could Eddie have done one more? I think he probably could have, right, to win that event, and that would have been the 1 point or whatever that it came down to. So, you know, I mean, all of that stuff at the end of the day, like I said, it's competition. I had a lot of things, looking back in hindsight, I had a lot of things not really fall my way, or I didn't do what I normally do with performing, right? So if I look in the mirror and say, okay, if I correct the plane pull and the squat, I win that contest, even with getting hurt, right? And so that's where my mind is. It's like, I'm coming back and now I'm getting better, right? And I'm going to correct these little things, and I'm going to come back and be even better next year. So yeah, once you know, I feel like in a lot of ways, you know, you can always, as a competitor, look back at that level as long as you were close and say, this could have gone this way, this could have gone with, but those were big things for me, at least. And so that's my point of view. And that's the way that my brain works, is I'm going to correct that. I'm going to get better. And now I'm going to come back and, I'm going to win. I'm going to win. I mean, it's not, you know, I had it. I, you know, things didn't quite fall the way they should have, but you take that step back, you get healed up, you go back to the drawing board, you figure out what you could have done better, and then you come back better. And that's really where you, I think a champion, you really find out what they're made of after they go through something like that, where it's okay, you got challenged, it didn't quite work out your way. Are you just kind of gonna throw in the towel and say, well, you know, poor me, whatever? You could certainly do that. It's easy to do that, especially when you've poured so much into it. But I don't, you know, like I said, I congratulated Eddie, and as badly as I absolutely despise losing and the way that things went down, I still shook his hand. He still worked his ass off. There's no, you can't take that away from him, right? And that's really my take on it. It was a hard fought battle, and it, I wish I could have changed a couple things, but you're always going to feel that way. So the exciting part is it would be a different scenario, I think, if you go to a contest and just get your ass kicked, right? And then you're like, well, if I would have done this and this and this, I would have won. Well, of course you would have won. Everybody can say that. But it's kind of like it was there. It was there. I was fully capable of winning. It just didn't quite the cards didn't quite fall that right way, and that's all there is to it. You come back, you get better, and I mean, I've tied at World's Strongest Man, for crying out loud, and not walked away with second place, literally tying on the same exact points without getting to do a tiebreaker or anything, and that was even harder to because you could look back through that whole contest and say I could have gained a half a point here, half a point there, and I would have won, and especially in that particular contest, there was one event where I really should have done something different. But over time, over your career, it doesn't matter as much if you don't win. You know what I'm saying? You can sit here and always have an excuse for why you didn't win or reasons. And even if they're legitimate reasons, most people, and there's probably some people that are watching this and saying, well, oh, you're just being a sore loser. Of course, you can't beat Eddie at squatter. And the thing is even people there said, yeah, Brian had you. If he had some more time, he would have had you. So it's things like that. I mean, Keri gives me a hard time about talking sometimes about the contest and whatever, but I feel like it was there. I feel like I trained hard into it. I feel like we had it.
Well, if you don't feel that you're the best in the world, and if you don't feel that you're unbeatable,
sure.
It's gonna be hard for you to ever win again. So you have to have that mindset of like, even though you are doing a good job of processing it, you do have to have a mindset of like, I put a lot into it. Like I worked my ass off, and I just have to change these couple things, and I'll get it next time.
I think at the end of the day, the event selection didn't fall in Brian's favor, and he was still fully capable of winning if he didn't make the couple mistakes. So as hard it is to accept that he didn't win, it's also, in a way, I think almost like a confidence booster saying,
yeah.
I mean, my best events weren't there. Not this should have been there, but if this would have been here, if this, that, if a keg toss or whatever,
or
something that is one of his best events.
Or if I would have known I can only do so much with the information that I have.
Right.
So even based on the events, if I would have known sooner, for example, it was a max deadlift, or if I would have known sooner, some of the other rules and that type of thing, I could, the more information you give me, the better I get, because I can go back and process that now. And you've given me,
if you make the playing field even, Brian will show up the most prepared.
I'll do everything I can. I mean, whether I'm the most prepared or not, I'm not going to leave any stone unturned.
As prepared, I should say, as you possibly can be, right? And I think you showed up as prepared as you could be, given the information he had, given the events he had.
We'll be back right after this quick sponsor break. 8 Man Strong sponsors this podcast, and they sponsor Brian Shaw. And the next bit could have been written about his situation. All of us will face challenges in our lives. Some will be physical, some will be mental, some will be emotional. And each of them will require a unique type of strength to overcome. This is why 8 Man Strong is not simply a brand that encourages the physically strong. 8 Man celebrates the fighters, the survivors. 8 Man strives to inspire those in a dark place to carry on. Regardless of your path and regardless of your tenacity, there will be setbacks, there will be defeats. 8 Man Apparel is a symbol of their support in your battles. It is a reminder to move only forward, to persevere, to fight. When you wear 8 Man, you are part of something bigger. You are one of them. 8 Man Strong Apparel for people who lift heavy weights. Today's sponsor, Precision Nutrition, is the industry's gold standard for elite nutrition education and coaching. Consultants to Apple, Equinox, Nike, Titleist, U.S. Open champ Sloane Stephens, UFC legend Georges St. Pierre. They've created something special for you, a new book all about genetics and genetic testing in health, fitness, nutrition, and sport. At over 70,000 words with 700 references, you can grab it totally free, hosted completely online at get.pn/PowerCast. We were just sort of talking about that element with Andy Galpin a couple weeks ago. What we know about genetics is
Right.
and what we don't know about genetics. And I think that book covers both.
Yeah, I think, a lot of people are just going to, think that someone's in good shape because of genetics. And sometimes that is the case,
Yeah.
but a lot of times it's accumulated choices, accumulation of making the right choices over and over again. So you're going to have to figure out some sort of way to get momentum based on whatever genetics you have. You may have to work twice as hard as the next guy. That might be the way that it is.
Yeah, that might be what your genetics are saying.
Unfortunately.
If you're really curious how genetics relate to your health, fitness, and performance, you'll want this free book. Again, that's get.pn/PowerCast. Check it out, folks.
What's the next day like after you've lost? You wake up, it's kind
yeah.
of feel like a nightmare, or like
The next day at World's Strongest Man, the first challenge was getting out of bed that day.
takes the hamstrings out.
Yeah, that was a bit because the bed was very low. It's kind of funny. This is a funny story. Eddie and I actually went and purchased our own mattresses together. A lot of people won't ever hear that kind of stuff, but the hotel mattresses were so bad that we had to go buy mattresses at a mattress store in Botswana. And it was insane. I mean, it was like one of those things where they were just, and we walked right in the hotel. But getting out of that bed where I had the other mattress on the bed.
Did you guys went and bought them and brought them to the hotel yourselves?
Literally carried them in ourselves.
That's
Yep.
amazing.
Just because we
He
weren't
calls
sleeping
home, he's
good
like,
enough.
I'm going to go buy a new mattress.
Yep. Yep. But that's the thing. And Eddie was right there with me. So it's like he understands. Normally I would be doing that by myself. So
Right.
it just shows, his level of dedication as well. And it was great. Like we both slept a lot better after we went and bought those. So that was good. But the next day, man, it's processing. You know what I'm saying? I think I probably talked to Keri quite a bit, and I had my buddy Andy there with me, and him and I kind of had a heart-to-heart talk, just being honest about the contest and what happened and how
Getting
it
all
went
your
down.
kind
and,
of frustrations out.
yeah, I mean, you kind of just come to the realization, like, okay, here's where we were, here's where we can improve, and I'm already starting to think about how can I improve. I mean, it's trying to process, the contest, but I mean, that's what you have to do to get better. I mean, if you don't have that, if you go get beat and you don't wake up the next day saying, all right, let's start putting this plan together to get
I don't want
this.
that to ever happen.
No, exactly. And that's how I've always been. So that's the next day. I mean, it was that. It was processing that. It was trying to enjoy the moment with the guys there as much as I could, because those moments are passing. You know what I'm saying? You start to realize, like, after you've been in your competing at that level, I mean, and hopefully I'll be around strongman, around the sport, and I'm, trying to do what I can, certainly, with different things. But the other thing that I'll say is after it was done, it kind of, I started thinking about, I kind of took a step back and needed to kind of reset a little bit. And in a lot of ways, it might have been a good thing, because I came home, and during the summer here, I've had a project on the back burner for myself for about 5 years now, and I've talked to Keri, took Keri's ear off about it for years, and that. And finally, I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a step back. I need a little bit of a mental reset from competing, so I'm going to try to do this now, right? And so I took my camera and started. I had already filmed some videos in the past. So I took my camera out, a lot of times by myself, or Keri would come out when I needed her help, and started filming these videos. But it's basically, it's called Strongman Academy, and it's a website that finally, after years and years, and then now really hard months of work, to putting it all together, that I'm finally going to get launched here this coming week, and it's. It's been a work in progress. It's going to have to be a work in progress. It's going to get better, but it's basically Strongman Academy. That's literally what it is. I'm going to teach people the intricate details of being a strongman, and they're going to get a look into my training. We're going to have some raw footage of training behind the scenes, so they can see what it takes to get ready, and they'll be able to ask questions, have a forum. I got my nutritionist on there talking about nutrition for strength athletes, what it takes and what your goals are. And so I'm really excited about it, man. It's been a completely different challenge than competing and just training. And
it's hard because you want to have like your own website or something, and somebody's like, well, how do you think it should look? And you're like, I don't really
exactly.
think about that part.
And that's the thing.
Do you have like high resolution pictures, and you have this and you have that? And you're like, oh, I got some, you know, like, and the whole thing's really tough to figure out.
Once you start to think about how to describe it to somebody else, it actually helps you think about it yourself too.
It's very true. Yeah.
It changes your mindset about it for sure.
So anyways, that's a completely big undertaking. I've always talked, and I think at several different times, even on the podcast here, I've talked about trying to be able to give back to the sport of strongman and to strength, athletes, and make the world a better place to lift. I mean, that's
people do need access to good information.
Yeah,
and it comes in many different forms from many different styles of people.
Yeah, so this is just I plan on using this as a portal to give back, really, too. And it's kind of it's just a combination. I mean, I feel like a lot of times it's frustrating to me because the internet and as many outlets as there are right now, there's so many people out there that are saying I'm an expert and I know everything. And look at me, I've done a couple contests, and now I know everything about everything, And so that's frustrating to me because I feel like there is a lot of information that's not that great, and unfortunately, that's what people get. And so it was kind of my idea when I first started Strongman, because I didn't have a place to go to learn. Nobody around me was training. I couldn't go to a training group to learn.
It still seems kind of exclusive, Strongman. It
Yeah.
seems like it's kind of difficult to learn anything, and then there's some people that have a little bit of equipment around, but it's not easy to find. There's some storage place or something, and it's a little complicated to figure out how to
I mean, for me, I kind of, as we've talked about here, I kind of go in head first with things. And so when I wanted to compete in Strongman, as soon as I started getting introduced to some people, I said, hey, who's literally the best guy I can go train with that's at the top of the game or as close to it as possible? I want to fly out and train with you and just train and learn as much as I can. I'm going to talk to you about everything I can, and then I try to absorb that, take it back, trial and error. What works for me? What are you doing? How are you doing it? And I've learned, you go to these international contests, and I'm always trying to learn, literally always trying to learn. If I see somebody trying something, or if somebody wants to talk, I'll always let them talk, and I'll listen. And then I'll decipher, okay, is that something that could be useful to me or not? And so over time, and you do that for enough contests and enough years, now you have a knowledge base about the sport. And there's a lot of things that go on with the sport of strongman that, looking at it, you probably would never realize, And so that's kind of essentially what I decided is I'm going to break down these events in detail. I'm going to be more interactive with the people there. It'll give me a better outlet to kind of teach as well. And then hopefully, like I said, be able to give back to the sport. I'd like to, in the future, be able to try to, through that, give out, different, either sponsorships, help athletes get to contests, or essentially grow the sport, maybe run a contest, or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of big ideas that I have, but it has to start with, I tend to let my mind wander, and you know this too, about how I want this and this and this and this, but it's got to start with the step one. Right. And that was finally, instead of just talking and talking and talking about these goals and things I want to do, it's like, okay, if you want to do that, you have to get the site started. and then see where it goes.
Yeah, things aren't going to be perfect.
Yeah.
You got to just like.
And I
go.
had to kind of accept that as well, because I'm very much with a lot of this stuff. I want it to be perfect. I want it to be, before it got off the ground, I wanted everything to be everything. You know, the I's dotted, the T's crossed, and I just kind of had to accept. You know what? It's just going to have to get better. And if I'm
The customers
striving,
will make it better too. Once
yeah,
people get on there and once people see what you have to offer, they're going to make suggestions. You're going to be like, oh, wow, that's really cool, but it'd be cool if you added this, or is it possible for you to do that?
See, and
you'd be
that's
like, oh, shit,
that'll be
okay.
awesome. That's what I want. I mean, it's
get a lot
I
of
want to
feedback.
get better, and it's I think you know, as I've strived to be a better competitor and do everything I can with that, I've kind of taken that into this, and I'm trying to do everything I can. Like I said, I mean, literally last night we had to get up at 5 for the flight. I worked until 1 in the morning on this, you know, because I've got to get it ready, and nobody else. If I can't count on anybody else. I've got to do it, you know.
Yeah.
So I've really had to take on that role. I mean, Keri's certainly helped me and been encouraging, and you know, it's something that we've very much, you know, you've come out and helped me as well. But it's yeah, it's been crazy. I mean, there's been a big learning curve, and I'm really excited about it. I mean, you know, as many people ask me questions and different things, I'm really hoping that it's a positive thing, and I can use it as a positive thing as well to really, you know, I've got different people that are going to contribute now. I've got some really top strong woman competitors and other strong men at every different level and weight class. And so I'm really excited about kind of the knowledge that can come out of it, and that it can be something that's really positive. So I'm excited. You know, it's a big undertaking for me, certainly, but and us, I guess, right? Like you're in it. I mean, it's very much like you know, Keri. It's we support each other. That's what's really cool about our marriage, I think, is, you know, if I have an idea or she has an idea, we're both very supportive of one another and try to do everything I can. I mean, I like for like FitMommyAcademy.com is her website. I help film a lot of those videos, right? I went down there and I was like, hey, we're going to do this. And, you know, you know, if she needs to go do something for that, I'm backing her up and saying, hey, I'll help and do whatever I can. And it's been cool. It's been cool to see her get that off the ground. That's already been more established. Mine is, you know, very much, I think having Keri now for me and, you know, her listening to me talk about this endlessly for so long, finally was,
I finally
just
said,
do
we're
it.
just doing it.
Just do
We're
it.
just doing
like,
it.
I'm sick of you sitting here talking about it. Like, and so in that way, Keri's very good for me, because I tend to get way out there and thinking way in the future. And she's more of a just, hey, Brian, let's be realistic. How are you going to put this into action? How are you going to make? So she balances me out in that way, like kind of brings me back down and says, okay, let's focus on the task at hand and not get so far ahead, you know.
I think we're all pretty guilty of talking about stuff that's never going to happen.
Yeah. And that's,
and then
yeah.
You kind of, a lot of times you'll say it out loud and you're like, maybe that's kind of out of the scope of what I normally do. Maybe I can't do that for now.
Sure.
And maybe it's got to be something, you know, with creativity and things, they take a lot of time to blossom. They take a lot of time to grow. And there's reasons why stuff gets stuck for a while. The slingshot, for example, was something I had in my head for 3 years before I ever even mentioned it to anybody.
Totally.
You know, and sometimes, and then some of the products I've created more recently, I've had the smaller slingshot that I showed you guys. Matt Vincent's wife has one of those, and I made that 4 or 5 years ago.
And just never brought it.
It just kind of sits around, because then you start to think about it more. You're like, how does that work? And with what you guys are doing, it'd be the same thing. And like, as you grow, you'll think about more things to implement. You might have an idea, and for now, you might think it's kind of dumb, and you put it on the back burner. Then somebody else mentions it to you. You're like, oh, I did have that. Maybe that wasn't that dumb of an idea. Maybe we should utilize that, and it will just keep growing.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you're right. I mean, well, you are right. Obviously, it's just, and I've gained even more knowledge, you know, in the past 3, 4, 5 years, and I'm constantly trying to gain more. And so it's maybe at that time when I first had the idea or whatever, it wasn't quite the right time, and
well,
now
like
it
you said,
is.
on the back burner, and
Yeah.
it just kind of sits there.
Yeah.
day after day, year after year, and then finally, like you say, maybe it is a good idea. Maybe
Well,
I
you gotta put
go with
yourself
it
out there
and-
too. I mean, there's a certain aspect of that. I know with Keri, it's maybe more so because she hasn't been out there like that. Whereas me, people have scrutinized me. I feel like my whole life, whether I was playing basketball or getting into strongman or whatever. And so for me, it doesn't faze me the same way. I don't think about it. I kind of think I'm going to give everything I have got, and that makes me happy. So you can say what you want to say, and people can have their opinion. Certainly, that's fine. It's no big deal, but it doesn't affect me the same way with her. She was kind of like, I could literally see her giving that part of herself away in a way, like putting yourself out there, because you have to be real, and it's
hard.
Yeah,
It's not easy
yeah,
to do it all the time either.
Yeah, and so has good days and bad days, and now, I don't know if you want to tell So we're filming this in advance of announcing this, but we're actually expecting our second baby.
What?
Yeah. So
Awesome.
So this has now even been a bigger challenge that I've had to watch her go through with, because she's certainly got
now
that
it's
aspect.
kind of put your money where your mouth is for me.
Yeah, it's
Fit Mom Academy's
Yeah.
got to go through a bloating phase here.
Right.
yeah.
Some
exactly.
bulking going on.
But I think, we're excited just for us,
Totally,
for
yeah.
our family, but also,
Absolutely.
I'm really excited to now going through this for a second time, being able to share what I wish I had the first time. Before even Fit Mommy Academy, it was like a dream. When I first found out I was pregnant, and you go through all those changes, and oh my gosh, this can't be normal. And
Sure.
so now the second time realizing, well, first of all, there isn't a normal, but second of all, it's okay if this happens or that happens. So I'm excited, hopefully, to be able to share my journey a little bit more, so there aren't everyday women, people like me, last pregnancy, saying, am I going to be okay? Am I going to get through this? Is this normal? Can I get back to myself? Or, just sharing that stuff, because I don't think there's enough sharing, especially when you're going through changes and you're worried, am I normal?
People don't have the right information.
No.
Your body is over and done with after you have a child. It doesn't actually really make any sense.
Right.
Like I don't have an understanding of it because I've never actually been through the process, so I don't want to claim to know all about it. But at the same time, it's just a matter of controlling your food, and controlling your mind and what your mind's capable of. I remember early in my powerlifting career, when we'd go to a lot of meets and stuff, and we'd start to see some of these top-level guys, I'd kind of look around, and I was like, oh, shit, not a lot of these guys have any kids or anything. So it's like it's a little different for them. However, I don't get a pass.
Exactly.
I don't get to hold up my dad card and be like,
they're not gonna give you a couple
be like,
extra
yo, I got a
pounds,
dad
yeah.
bod. Can you give me a 50-pound handicap
Yeah.
on that squat or whatever? You still have to go and perform and do what you need to do, right?
Exactly. And I think for Brian too, that's been. You asked at the beginning of this, how has Braxton changed or changed our lives and Brian's training, competing and stuff, and it's obviously changed it, but I think it's helped him realize, there are people out there that are dads, and they have jobs and they still want to do this strongman thing or the powerlifting thing or whatever, but Brian's found his ways around it. You found your ways around it. There are ways around it. I found my way around being a mom and still being confident, having time for myself and stuff. And it's just, I think it's just being honest and sharing with people. And you don't have to keep that all to yourself. Just be honest with people and share that with them. I don't know. It's a woman thing, but women empowering women. You just want to.
Men need it too.
Or make
really
make the
do.
world a better place to live. You just got to share that and your passion. I think, and that's kind of what gets me fired up. But it's just share your experiences, and people can relate to it or they can't relate to it. But if they do, you might be making a difference for someone.
Yeah, if you have a day where you break down and you're sad about something, how many other women are going to be able to, relate to that, and they're going to say, fuck, I felt like that before. Maybe I'm not crazy. Maybe that's just like
Right.
hormones and a bunch of different things going on. But men go through a lot of, like, maybe not the same exact stuff, but men go through some stuff too. And guys really need mentors. I mean, I'd say more so now than ever. They need people that they can rely on to drive them to do. I mean, the speech that he ripped off in the middle of this podcast was fucking extraordinary. It was unbelievable. And people need to hear. They do need to hear stuff like that. And Jim, kind of pointed out how it was stuff that was for him. And of course, like, he wants to make you proud and make his family proud, and there's all those other things that go on. But he's not looking outside; he's looking within, and he's keeping it within the family. And I think all that stuff is important. And you guys are just an awesome example. That's why I wanted to have both of you on today. I just thought,
Thank you.
With her having Fit Mom Academy and you having your Strongman Academy, I just think it's really cool that you guys have the opposite side of the spectrum.
Yeah.
For sure.
And then at the same time, the same exact goal is in mind of how do we get better. Sure. Having Keri be super sweet and gentle, and you're this strongman giant, but yet we've seen you with Braxton bouncing him on your legs, singing to him.
Sure.
It's like that's adorable. Like, that's really cool. You guys have a lot of really cool and exciting things going on. What's coming up next for you guys? Besides popping out more kids.
Yeah.
More kids. I think trying to make our businesses a success, is definitely a goal. Raising Braxton, keep
Bring your mic up.
Sorry. Keep trying to kind of encourage him and, just be a good role model and share our experiences. I mean, I don't feel like I have anything earth shattering. Like, I just want to share my experiences with people, and my goal is to be a good wife, to be a good mom to 2 kids now. That's my goal, and to support Brian. I think his goals are on the world stage. I think he has some big things coming up in the next year that
I mean, that's my for me, my goals are always fairly simple when it comes to competition. I mean, every year I want to try to win the Arnold Classic, and I want to try to win World's Strongest Man. And at this point, the more of those that I win, and the more successful I am, it's just, I think when I'm done with all of this, that's what people, that's the reason you remember, especially strongmen that were competed decades ago, is the number of titles they won. Yeah. That's what you're measured on. I mean, you can do, big things, and, there's some guys that have won World's Strongest Man one time and been done, or didn't win, weren't able to win again, and they're a lot of times not remembered the same way as the competitors that won 2 or 3 or 4, or 5. And so it's kind of getting, for me, it's getting to that 5th is huge for me. I mean, 4 is incredible, certainly, and it's getting after that. Keeping those goals going. I mean, I think I've got some really good years left in me, and I want to keep going. I want to push to see where I can go, and keep having fun with it. And that's
where
really
do you get
my
some
goals.
of your motivation from? Are there other people in the industry, or other people that you like to emulate, or somebody from when you were a kid? Like, I always talk about, like, Bo Jackson and stuff like that.
Totally, yeah. I think I've tried to draw inspiration from different people for different reasons. I think that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, obviously, I think your parents, and especially for me, like my dad, his work ethic and doing things the right way. And
what did he do for a living?
He worked for the power company for almost 30 years. And
you don't realize what any of that means when you're a kid, but
no.
he's just gone all the time, and you're like,
yeah, I can't imagine.
What's he doing? But every day, like clockwork, right?
Yep. So coming in and just the way that he, worked around the house and that type of stuff. I mean, that stuff certainly set a very good example, for me, and other people. As far as now, I mean, there's different athletes for different reasons, and I'll listen to different people, and it's never been one person like, hey, this is my inspiration. It's kind of like, hey, I want to try to get to this different place, or obviously there's different competitors that I've looked up to or watched in Strongman, because that's where I was trying to go, certainly. But I think there's a lot of people out there, if you find them in the world, that have a good message, and you can draw inspiration, I think, from a lot of different people for a lot of different reasons. And I've tried to do that, certainly, and try to take, if I can take something positive and try to make it myself better, because I take something positive from somebody else. That's, you can find those good things some way, somehow you can find them, if you look for them. And it's just, positive messages and setting goals and all of that. I mean, it all goes hand in hand, and you can surround yourself and you can be that if you want to be that. You don't have to be negative. You don't have to be a downer. You don't have to have people that are not influencing you in the right way. And, it's especially, growing up. I mean, I've tried my best to surround myself with good people that, had the same goals, or were trying to go in the same direction. And, that's, I think at the end of the day, that's really, you're very much a product of your environment. Whether that's parents and growing up or all that.
Some of the coaches you had in the past,
sure.
Some of those things still echo in your head. You mentioned having that one coach that was kind of militant, and
yeah.
Just some of those words when you're training, like, is there anything specific somebody said, like, don't ever give up, or like, I don't know, just something that sticks out in your head?
I mean, I think I'm like I said, a product of the environment. I think going through some of those things, and like Coach House used to kick your ass, right?
Sure, yeah.
And
you at Arizona
House
State?
was. I mean, he was very good
disciplinarian,
for me.
Right?
Yeah, he was very good for me at that point in my career. Because I was just getting out of college at that point when I was around him, and I was just getting into heavier lifting. And he was sometimes in those. I would go lift with him in his garage, for example, and he would only allow me to deadlift the weight I could deadlift with good form.
Right.
But I could pull more weight than that. It was just that my form went to crap, right? And he would stop me, say, okay, you're done for the day. And I remember driving home, or, back to my apartment or whatever then, and I was so frustrated and pissed off. And I'm like, I'm stronger than this. I don't understand. At the time, I didn't understand. But it was like one of the best things that could have happened to me, because I learned, hey, form is important. You need to solidify this. You need to have that foundation to build on. And so for me, it was a perfect time for that to happen. So again, I learned what I could from him, and I'm still learning, you know what I'm saying, from him and other people out there. I've asked him different questions through my strongman career, and he's got ideas, and, that knowledge base, from different coaches. I mean, I had good coaches. I had bad coaches too. I certainly had some coaches. I mean, my last basketball coach, for example,
when
I played,
you threw over the bench.
I did. Yeah. I've very much disliked him. He didn't have good family values. Some of the things he would say, I very strongly disagreed with him, So, coaches and whatever sometimes can be role models, and sometimes they're not people you want to emulate and follow,
right.
So you have to decipher that as well. I mean, you can. So just again, it's surrounding yourself with good people, and those good people are out there. You just got to find them and hold on to those lessons and those things through life. I think that's really to stay on the right path. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like I'm sitting here talking to you, and how many times have we talked about different things, and you're have grown. I mean, since we first met, like, you're constantly moving forward.
Yeah,
constantly,
trying,
right? So it's a, like, I take lessons from that too. Right? So it's kind of like, we met at the Fit Expo, and I mean, none of this was here. And now look, I get to come to brand new Super Training Gym, and you get to give a tour where we're walking around for like half an hour through the whole thing. You know what I'm saying?
Taking a golf cart from one spot to another.
But it's all because you put one foot in front of the other, and you just started dragging the cart yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, you started making it happen, and you had a supportive wife with you, and you were a team, and you tried to do all these different things and had a vision and a goal and where you're trying to go. And so it's awesome, that vision and that process, and people that have followed you for a long time can see where you're going, and you've set different goals and you've done different things, and you've set out to achieve things, and you've got there. Right? It's you didn't just talk about it or have ideas or whatever. You've put the wheels into motion, and now this is where you're at. I mean, how freaking cool is that? I mean, it's like, and people sometimes I think it's, now, like Keri's told me, it's kind of like, I've been at World's Strongest Man now for so many years, and I'm always right at the top. And like, people don't realize I started competing at a local contest in a parking lot, and I had a vision that I wanted to get to World's Strongest Man and be there. And now it's like, well, that's Brian Shaw. He's at World's Strongest Man, or he's won it, and he's not really touchable. That's not really a real thing. And then it's the same thing with, well, that's just Mark Bell. I mean, he's got this gym and all this stuff. And
it falls on deaf ears, I feel like, to try to give people a speech about how you need to be a good person.
Yeah.
You need to be fair to people, and you need to be kind. I mean, I try to post something several times a week about something like that to really share that with people. It's the only way that anything's ever come back around to me.
Sure.
Is to just be fucking cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Don't be a dickhead.
Think that's such a simple thing, but
yeah, and it's not always easy, right?
Yeah,
like sometimes you don't want to be the nicest person in the world, and sometimes you're not real talkative, and there's a bunch of different things that come into play. Sometimes you're like, oh shit, I could get there faster if I just did it this way. And then you're like, that probably wouldn't float well with some of the other people in my community. So I need to stop for a second, make the right decision. That's for me and for other people.
Well, just like today, for example, coming out here on the airplane, there was a few different people in the Denver airport that came up and shook my hand, really excited for different reasons. And there was one guy when I got off the plane here in Sacramento that came up and said, very nonchalant, like, "Hey, you're Brian Shaw." And I was like, "Yeah." And he was wearing a military hat, and he said, what you've accomplished is really impressive. And it was just very matter of fact, but he's like, you're doing it in the right way and being a nice guy to people. And he's like, that's what I really appreciate. He shook my hand and said, that was it, and then walked off. But it's like, how much does that mean?
Shit, that makes you feel good, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's the thing, though, is it comes, like what you just said, it comes back around. And could I be that person? I probably could. Right? I'm really big. I could walk around and, oh, you want a picture? No, I'm not taking pictures. Leave me alone.
It's $20.
And I just don't choose. It's be humble. It's be gracious. It's all these different things, and that comes back around so many different times over. If, like you just said, don't be a dick. Just be a good person. I mean, it's pretty
How
simple.
hard is it to not be a dick?
No,
that's the whole thing.
Yeah, but people get some attention. They get a couple cameras on them, and all of a sudden their head doesn't fit through a door, and they need everything handed to them or whatever. It's just a mindset, and I think it's fun to come talk about it, because I think that message needs to come across.
I think people are starting to understand more.
Yeah.
The people that we interact with and go into these shows, I have a lot of people just come up and they basically just say thank you.
Sure.
And like, hey man, thank you so much.
Yep.
You've done a lot for me. I just wanted to shake your hand. Boom, they're gone.
Yeah.
They just like walk away, but you're like, shit, man, that's why we're doing all this stuff. For that exact thing.
It's every day on social media.
Yeah.
I get it some private messages, whatever. Every day somebody says thank you for what you do.
Sure.
And there was a lot of time when nobody said anything,
Right.
so it's nice that
You build up to that.
Yeah.
But it's again, you have to have that vision and really be motivated to get there, because if you have the vision and you don't have the work ethic, or you don't have,
And don't think that you don't have time for people.
Sure.
You do.
Yep. Yep.
You do. You can make a little bit of time. You're not going to be able to carve out time for everybody, obviously. And you got to stick to what's most important to you, and what makes the most sense for your family first. But there's some play in there where you can do a little bit of other stuff. The other day I was in here training, and one of our lifters, Bill, his son is autistic.
Yep.
And I've been trying to get that kid to like do some exercises forever.
Sure.
He's usually just kind of sitting there minding his own business, sometimes watching his dad lift or playing on an iPad or something like that. And I've had him do farmer's carries and a couple things just with some dumbbells and a couple things. But sometimes I can't. He's not easy to communicate with. He doesn't always understand exactly what you're trying to put in front of him. But I pushed a tank towards him, and I was like, he's going to get this. He's going to understand the tank. Because it's just something that you just shove against it and you just push against it, and it gives you like resistance. And so I push it towards him, and now I see that he's watching me. So then I push it back. I keep pushing it back and forth a couple times, and then I grab him and I have him stand up and I have him walk towards it. He's just not sure what side to go on, So then I show him one more time to push it. And he just thought it was the coolest thing. He just starts to try to walk with it. It's given him a little more resistance than I think he thought.
Sure.
And then he wasn't sure if he could push it. But the second that he got momentum, just like any of us, the second he got momentum, he enjoyed it. Yeah. He fucking loved it. And I was like, this is super cool. And we were lucky enough to film it. But I've like literally been trying to get him to do stuff in here forever. And then next thing you know, then he's pulling it. Like he's doing rows with it.
That's too cool.
And then he's out there doing the farmer's carry. And then while he's doing the farmer's carry, he takes the dumbbells and he's trying to put them over his head and stuff too.
Oh, that's cool.
He's going to remember that forever.
Yeah, and I'm like,
your 10 minutes.
Yeah, I'm like, now he's like getting like into exercise. But I think, we have time to help each other out.
Yep.
And I think that's what we're all here for. And that's what you guys are providing with these websites.
Trying to, man. It's big goals, big ambitions, throwing yourself out there, but we're trying to make it happen. I mean, it's just, comes down to how much hard work do you want to put in, and are you willing to try to make it better? And it's.
I think just putting yourself out there and being honest. Like, I mean, you put yourself out there all the time. Just be relatable to people, and that's what we're trying to do. But
give us your websites.
fitmommyacademy.com.
And mine is going to be strongman-academy.com.
And then where can people find you guys? What are your Instagram handles, stuff like that?
Instagram is also at fitmommyacademy. And then I have a Facebook page, which is Fit Mommy Academy as well.
Do you guys answer some of your messages that you might get on Instagram? You probably get flooded.
I'm not quite as popular as Brian. So I answer everything. And sometimes some of Brian's, if people ask questions.
Yeah.
not just like the comments.
Yeah.
Ask questions,
I try my best. I really do. I get flooded with so many different things on a daily basis. I could literally probably spend hours, if not more, trying to get all. So I try my best with that. But my social media is just at Shaw Strength, and then I also have my personal website is shawstrength.com. So there's more personal stuff on there.
You still looking for some savages to come train with you, or have you stopped the vetting process?
I tell you what, man, that was me doing that post about adding a couple guys to my gym was literally overwhelming. And then from that, I've talked to Keri. Flattering, totally. The stories, the people, I didn't realize in that.
But you still could really
community.
Use some people that are real serious about strongman.
Sure.
Strongman specifically.
I found, I brought a couple guys in now that are, it's been really new now. And, it's been going great. I've really been happy, but it was very challenging for me, and I'm still actually not even at this point. I haven't got back to everybody yet, which sucks, and I'm trying to get back. But there was just so many hundreds of emails that
worldwide.
And people were willing to
crazy.
relocate and come in and just to learn and train, and I think I actually told you, I said, honestly, we need to try to work toward having a gym. Bigger gym that caters to that, because there's so I mean it's just incredible. Like in that area, in our area, there's really not anything, which is why in the first place I had to build my own.
Right.
But if we could get to that point, through things, I would like to do that to give back and all of that too. But I think I found a couple of guys, so I'm really happy. with that right now. And if they happen to not work out, I have a list of hundreds that could possibly take their place, I guess. But
that's great.
It's pretty cool. I mean, it's pretty cool to have people respond like that in the stories. And it has been very hard for me to say no to some people, because you can just tell that how bad they want it, and I wish that I could bring in almost all of them, to teach them, and hopefully in some aspect, that's kind of why I'm doing the website as well, because then I can maybe reach more people and help them and answer their questions and all that too. So we'll see. I mean, but yeah, it's. I wish you wish you can always reach more people and do that and because I know it's unfortunately in the strongman world, it's tough to get information. It's tough to learn, and if you want to get involved, it's unless you're kind of like me and you either start doing it yourself or just dive in head first, it doesn't happen. And so we'll see. I mean, I'm trying to do my best in that world to kind of use what I've been able to do in a positive way. So hopefully that happens. I'm really excited.
Congratulations on baby number 2.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm not doing too much right now. I'm being supportive. She's doing all the heavy lifting, right? Yeah.
Some back massages here and there, and just go out for ice cream in the middle of the night. And you should be good to go for a little while.
Yeah, we've done a few foot massages.
You've
right?
helped out with Braxton a little bit. I've been very sick, so
yeah, she's been struggling.
That's so hard.
You definitely helps. Been struggling, but hey, we get through it. It's a blessing.
All right, you guys learned how to be the world's strongest man. You learned how to be a champion. You're going to have to not only be 6'8" and 400 pounds, but you're going to have to put in a lot of work, and you're going to need an awesome wife behind you as well. Multiply your hustle, multiply your hustle, multiply your muscle. May all your shits be tapered. I'm at Mark Smelly Bell on Instagram and Twitter. Later.
Shout out to all of our sponsors: Precision Nutrition at get.pn/PowerCast, 8Man Strong Apparel at 8manstrong.com, Reebok.com, home of the Legacy Lifting Shoe, the official shoe of the PowerCast, CompexUSA.com, 28% off of all but the least expensive model using the code PowerCast, bodybuilding.com for all of your supplement needs, Slingshot at howmuchbench.net. Use the code PowerCast, get 15% off Slingshots, and Power Magazine, the only strength magazine available in both digital and print, at thepowermagazine.com. I'm at the Jim McD on all the social media. Follow the show on Instagram. We are at Mark Bell's PowerCast. We're out of here.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Good stuff.